Thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is Jason Wheeler. I'm out here with Ryan Paquette today. We wanted to do an introductory podcast just to kind of get our feet wet. We promise that the quality will get better as we figure out what we're doing. Today, I have Ryan on the podcast, and I wanted to say thank you for all the work that you've done with the setup on getting everything going. Ryan took care of all of the electronics and equipment and stuff, which there's no way I would have been able to figure out. So super appreciate you for that.
For sure.
So I'm a real estate agent, but I'm also a house flipper, do some remodeling, do some other things. Ryan is a brand new agent and a friend. And we've talked about him getting his license. He just recently got his real estate license, or license is on its way. And we've talked about doing like a podcast together. I wanted to have a conversation with you where we talk about things that you can do as a new agent to get started, or even an agent who's kind of stale and they're not moving forward in their real estate career. And I thought it would be a good idea for us to record this. That way I'm not, if I have somebody else, I can just direct them to the video.
For sure.
So thanks for being on the podcast. Ryan, did you want to tell the people a little bit about you?
A little about me. I didn't think this through that much myself, introducing myself, but I would say I'm a beginner at this real estate stuff. I don't have a flip under my belt or a listing under my belt, so I am a willing student, and I think that that identifies with a lot of the people that would be listening to this conversation. So I hope that I can ask insightful questions that a beginner might ask. So you can kind of have a student to teach in me, but also you're helping out a lot of other people.
Cool. Yeah. And I just thought that it would be a good idea to record this because we can, in the future, I can direct other people to it. And I think there's a lot of agents that could get a lot of value out of this. Yeah. I've been in the business since I started in mortgage in 1997. I got my first real estate license in 2001 in California, which was really something that was required to originate mortgage loans. I don't know if you know this about me. So I had to get that license once I left like bigger shops with that had their own licensing, and I needed to have a license. So I did that. I got my first real estate license in Nevada. I want to say that was 2007. So, I mean, I've been in the game a long time. It's disclaimer. I'm not trying to act like I'm, top 10 or even top 100 in Vegas. There's a lot of agents that are a lot bigger than me. I'm kind of more of a outside the box type of a person. So, I mean, if somebody wanted to dissect my real estate career and, throw stones, they probably could. But, I've managed to hang around in the business for a long time. I just recently heard somebody say something, or I saw something where it was like that there's 19,000 licensees in the state of Nevada, which I would guess that the majority are in Las Vegas. So, I mean, it's a tremendous amount of competition. If you look at the number of transactions that are being done monthly, a huge percentage of those people are doing zero.
Okay.
So I've managed to stick around for a long time. And there's a lot of insight that I could give you or anyone else on how to get started. Because let's face it, now you have your real estate license. It's like, okay, now what do I do?
Right.
So there's a lot of different things you could do. For example, I remember meeting somebody that all she did was specialize in horse property. She was a horse person. So that was her niche. There's so many different niches that you could get into. And, your niche might even change.
Right.
It's not an easy business. I would tell you and anyone that's getting into the business that it's difficult to start. You're going to have some heartbreaks. You're going to have some tough situations that are going to happen along the way. Some deals will fall out. Some people that you think love you and you're going to do a deal with that might not work out. That's just the nature of the business, unfortunately. And you have to persevere through those things and don't let any one thing stop you.
For sure. And I think most businesses that's true for, that it's hard. You have to persevere if you want to see success. I think what makes real estate unique is that the rewards can be so outsized for if you do stick with it, like the people that are getting transactions closed consistently, I'm sure they're making a great living, versus those 18,000 other realtors who are realtors in name only. So I think that you being able to provide that advice on how to be someone who's successfully doing transactions is going to be invaluable if people are willing to listen and actually go out and do the work. Because that's what you say to me all the time, is that, man, it's just a lot of work. Like every step of the way is basically a lot of work.
Yeah, you have to be willing to do the work. There's no magic bullet. I remember when I'm not going to use anybody's names, but I've switched brokerages a few times, probably no more than anybody else, probably less than most people. But I remember when I switched to a certain brokerage and I thought, oh, this person's like a big agent. They just they just get a lot of deals because of, whatever, like they get a lot of repeats or they get a lot of referrals. And what I learned is that that's not even true. Even for the top biggest guys out there and gals that are doing it, you would think that you always get a lot of repeats and referrals and stuff. And you do get some repeats and you do get some referrals. And the more you do, the more you're going to benefit from those things. But that actually a lot of the bigger people out there, they're just busting butt. They're cold calling. They put in a certain amount of time and they make, it's a numbers game and they're working it. And you might not think that some of the more successful agents out there are doing it, but then you actually watch them and you're like, wow, you cold call? And they're like, yeah, that's why I'm killing it, because I cold call and I'm still doing it, So that was interesting to me. And then I realized, well, shoot, I'm not doing hardly anything. I got to step it up and cold call if these top dogs are cold calling. So, we can let the listeners know that we've done a little bit of work together. On the flipping side, that I do a lot of door knocking on the notice of defaults, and that you've gone out and helped me with that, helped me with the data. And that was something that originally got you excited about the business and the possibility of getting into the business. I would tell you and all agents that even though you're licensed now and that you're going to interact with the public and you're going to try to get listings and you're going to try to work with buyers, that you should always hold yourself up as a real estate professional and an investor, because you are those things. You do know, you have a certain amount of funds that you're working with, any shortcoming in funds that you may or may not have on any deal. And let's face it, nobody has, $4 million to go buy a $4 million investment property, an income property, but somebody knows somebody with the money or can figure it out. So you always want to keep in mind that not every seller out there wants to list their property and try for top dollar. And it's surprisingly, it's not always the price and the money. It always seems like it is, but nowadays you've got people listing their property through things like Opendoor and Zillow types of programs out there where they're not maximizing. They're getting a quick transaction.
Right.
And so you can't just always assume that everybody wants to get top dollar and wants to list their house. And a lot of people don't want to have buyers walking through their house, and they don't want to have to do repairs, and they don't want to have their life interrupted by the process. They just want to get a quick deal, get into escrow, and close it with the minimal amount of stress. So one thing that I would say definitely do when you talk to sellers is ask them what they want. You have to ask people what they want, and don't assume that they want to list with you. A lot of people don't like realtors.
Fair.
They don't. And so if you say like, hey, what's most important to you? Are you the type of person where you want to get the maximum that you can? Are you the person that wants to do something quickly? Do you mind doing some repairs? How are you going to feel if we have, 10, 15, 20 buyers walking through over the next, 30 days trying to get a buyer? People that come and then they come back 3 days later with their realtor for a second look, which usually when someone's about to write an offer, they want to go back for a second look. Are you the type of seller that's going to, like, what do you want? And if they're like, yeah, we want to get the most we can, it's like, okay, we can go that route. Or if they're like, well, we really don't want to do any repairs. We really don't want to show the property. We don't want to have our life interrupted. We prefer not to have inspections and all that stuff. So, and then you can say something like, well, hey, if we were able to get you a cash offer and close in 30 days, maybe pay your closing costs, or maybe even waive your realtor's fees, would you be interested in something like that? And if they're like, yeah, we totally would. Well, you might switch gears and go into your investor mode where you're going to buy and flip the house, or you're going to get a partner that's going to finance that. And not only can you set up a good deal for yourself as an investment, but you might be giving them what they want. And if you don't do that and you're only pushing towards listings, then ultimately you'll just be a listing agent forever, which isn't a bad thing. You can definitely have a good, successful career and I don't want to use the word lucrative, but you could do pretty well with that. But like when we were over at the office and we were talking to Jeff, and he was kind of joking, like, "Oh, you want to do this, right? You want to work your butt off and bang your head into a wall because it's difficult." And so what I'm saying is just remember to keep that option open, that you are an investor and you're not just a listing agent.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting approach because it's like you got the license, but in terms of the loop, I don't want to use lucrative either, but like in terms of the money you can make on a typical flip versus a representing a seller, which one would you rather do? Like as a seasoned professional, like if you had the option to pick and choose, would you rather do a flip or would you rather do a listing as a realtor?
As a flipper, I would rather do a flip. And we walk a fine line there, and that's one thing that you have to be careful, is that our duties as licensees, our duty is to the client. So you always have to make sure that you're disclosing, and you want to give people options. And I always tell people straight up, like, if there's someone who I can buy the house and flip the house or have a partner or whatever, I'll tell them, I'll say, listen, if I list your property and I wear my realtor hat, we're going to expose the property to the whole world. You're going to probably end up with more money in your pocket at the end than if I flip it. If I flip it, I'm trying to make a profit. I don't have to get it for a ridiculous price, but I need to get it to where there's profit in there for the risk that I'm taking.
Right.
So, depending on what your needs are, we have different options of what we can do here. And that way you're disclosing to them that, hey, if I buy the property, you could have probably made more money if I listed it. So that way you want to be forthcoming with that information, that you're not trying to hide anything or that you could have any blowback. But ultimately what I've found the most success as an investor now is that when I talk to people, when I approach people and I'm coming from the perspective that I'm trying to buy the property, I always let them know that I'm a licensed agent, and you have to disclose that too at some point. You could say I'm a licensed agent. That's not a problem. I just have to disclose that to you. But you should say something, and you should let them know as soon as possible. You don't want to get really far down the road and then let them know that you're licensed up, like far down road. But you should be transparent about that. And then there's no problem. And you should always take everybody's best interest into account as a licensee to make sure that you're not, taking advantage of somebody or doing something that's later come back on you. So I don't know if you wanted to interject on that.
No, I think that's I think that's all good information. It's probably typically it's going to be more money if you can flip the property yourself rather than being a realtor helping them list their property. However, I like what you said, that it's all about doing what they want.
Exactly.
Because if you do what they want and you disclose, I feel like there's very little, like you've done everything you could, you've done it by the book. And if you're able to get a flip out of that, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. Time is more valuable than money. And sometimes people are in a situation where if you do a faster closing and you're saving people a lot of time and stress, they'll be willing to do that. They just need to have all the information. You just have to disclose that you're licensed and that, you could possibly make them more money by doing a listing, but you understand if they may or may not be interested in that, and that you have all those different options. So as a new agent, I would say, as being a brand new agent, I would say that's a really important concept for you to know going into it, because I was a licensed agent for years before I even had the mindset of thinking as an investor.
Right.
And when I was working for Platinum Real Estate Professionals for the Troy Kearns Group, after transitioning over from a different brokerage, that was kind of one of the concepts that I picked up from Troy, as well as some of the other agents that were in there. Was like my mindset would always go to trying to go from being mostly a buyer's agent to trying to figure out how to become a listing agent, and realizing that, don't only wear your realtor hat, wear your real estate professional hat, your real estate investor,
Right.
and offering them different solutions for whatever their problem is. And so now, anytime I approach any seller, I'm always coming from like a dual perspective. Like, hey, I'm a buyer, but I'm also a realtor. I can help you whichever way is best for you.
And that mentality probably could have made you a lot of money if you had that going in from day one, because like what, there's nothing stopping you from having that perspective from right from the very beginning.
Yep.
So yeah, could have made you a lot of money had you had met the right influence at that time.
Yeah. And not only that, but I mean, I might have lost a deal where I just came from the realtor perspective and that wasn't what they wanted. They didn't like realtors. They had a bad experience with their realtor. That's the only perspective I came with. So somebody else probably ended up buying the house as an investor, maybe even at a price that was maybe less than I would have paid, right, or more than I would have paid. So the point is keep that in your back pocket. So moving forward, I would say another thing was when we were over at the brokerage with Jeff, our broker. So we both currently are licensed with Blue Diamond Realty here in Las Vegas. Who knows if we'll be hanging our licenses there forever. I mean, I've been around enough that I would like to stay put, but you're brand new. And I would say just being fair and being honest with agents, the likelihood that you'll never switch license brokerages ever is probably pretty low. Like there's a pretty good chance that you'll move around a little bit. It's very common. People get stale, people get hard feelings for whatever the reason. People move around in brokerages, and it's not a bad thing. It's just, it is what it is. I like Jeff a lot. He's helping kind of mentor me more on the on the flipping side. And but anyway, we're both with Blue Diamond right now. We were when we met with Jeff over at the brokerage a few weeks ago, he was saying that, are you sure you want to do this? You sure you want to be an agent? Because really the better money is in being an investor.
Right.
But that being said, I still think you should focus on learning how to be a realtor and, maybe even working with buyers. Most agents that are experienced, they would rather have a listing than a buyer, because a listing, you put up your listing and now you're waiting for somebody to come to you and bring you a buyer. Right. It's not necessarily what you're supposed to do, but that's kind of how that works out. Whereas, working with a buyer, you might show a buyer 10 or 15 properties before they tell you they decided not to buy or they found some other agent, depending on if you structured your paperwork correctly. So that being said, for a new agent, I would say you should figure out how to get some buyers. And I'll even take it a step further. In the beginning, you might even want to figure out how to work with some renters. I did a lot of rentals for a really long time before I was having any success with sales. I don't recommend that agents focus on rentals. If you have designs on maybe becoming a property manager, then it's not a bad way to get started. If you have absolutely nothing going on and you're trying to supplement your income and you want to make a few bucks, rentals are pretty easy. I mean, I could get 100 renters calling me today if I wanted to. And you can't get 100 buyers calling you. And I guarantee you can't get 100 sellers calling you in one day, but you could figure out how to get 100 buyers calling you in one day. Renters. Yeah. So, they're everywhere. And starting out, you need to figure out how to get busy in real estate. If you're going to be a successful agent, you're probably going to work 40 hours a week bare minimum. You're probably going to work 50, 60 hours a week if you're really getting after it. And you have to look at it as though, how much money do you want to make as a realtor? Do you want to make $100,000 a year? Do you want to make $250,000 a year? Do you want to figure out how to make $1 million a year? You can reverse engineer that based on what the average transaction size is and what your commission split is, and figuring out how many deals you need to do in a year and dividing it by 12 and figure out how many deals you have to do a month. And you can do that. So I kind of lost my train of thought. Did you want to jump in there at all? You don't have to bail me out if you don't have
Yeah,
anything, but
no, you can reverse engineer how much money you want to make. And I think it felt like you were leading into 40, 50, 60 hours a week. But like, what's the payoff? Because most jobs, you're going to work 40 hours a week no matter what. But the average American salary is $26,000 a year.
right.
It's hard to make a living on $26,000 a year. So is 60 hours a week worth it to most people to make 100, 150, $200,000 a year? I would say so.
Yeah, and I remember what I was going to say, but let's say you're making $200,000 a year in real estate consistently, which I would think the majority of agents, probably 99.5%, would be thrilled with that kind of outcome, because probably less than 0.5% of agents are making more than $200,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're making that kind of money, you're probably working 60 to 70 hours a week. So then it's like, hey, do you want to make $250,000 a year as a realtor, or $500,000 as a realtor doing buyers and sellers? It's like, yeah, I really want to do that. Okay, well, you need to figure out how to work about 70 hours a week, because by the time you're making that kind of income, that's about how many hours you're probably going to be working. Starting early, ending late, you're trying to wind down, or you're in bed and your text is going off, just because you're dealing with so many different people.
Right.
So I would try to create an environment of how to get busy working that quantity of hours. And as you progress in the business and become more and more successful and have more clients, the work that you're doing will be different.
Mm.
In the beginning, you're just starting from scratch. So you're going to go and work a lot and just get busy doing a bunch of stuff that's probably not going to yield a lot of results, but you're doing something. You know what I mean? You might go and show a rental, and while you're out, you see a neighbor with their garage door open, and you just say, hey, I'm Ryan, I'm a new agent, let me give you my card. And that could turn into something. But if you never get started and you don't actually start working and getting out there and talking to people and meeting people, you kind of won't really get started. So in the beginning, you'll do a lot of work that, as you get further along the lines, you'll look back at the work you did and you realize that it wasn't really very fruitful, but you got to get started. It's just like a diet or a workout plan. You start working out, hitting the weights, and probably within 60 to 90 days, your interest level and your progression in weightlifting and in fitness should change to the point where you're probably not even doing any of the same stuff you were doing when you got started. Your workouts change, your weights change. Some people have schooled you on how to, I would use cables for this instead of dumbbells or stuff. So everything changes, but you had to get started. Same thing with like diet. You're not eating right and everything's off, and then you switch it to a bunch of different things that are like healthier types of foods, but ultimately you realize, well, that stuff's not even great. And then you switch to higher levels where you even have like more advanced types of foods, but you got to get started. So everything will change. But if you don't get started putting in some work in the business, because ultimately what you need to be doing is you need to be talking to people. You need to be in that mindset that you're working. And then when then you leave whatever you were doing for the day working, and you go to the gym and you're just still in that mindset, and you just make a conscious effort that you're just going to say hello to X amount of people per day and just let them know, hey, I'm a new agent and just wanted to say hi. Maybe you give them your card, maybe you don't, like on the gym floor. But you got to get started. And just to loop back to what we were saying, if you could become a listing agent like right out of the gate and not really work with buyers too much, that would probably be great. But the likelihood that you're going to get a bunch of listings when you're a brand new agent is really low. People already know a lot of agents, but in the beginning, it's not very difficult to get buyers. So how do we get you some buyers? That's kind of like a segue into what this conversation was about. Because, yeah, you want to flip some properties. Yeah, you want to get some listings. But if you don't do anything until you get your first listing, which getting a listing, it could take you 6 months. It could take you a year. I didn't get listings for a really long time into the business. Now I expect to get listings. So getting started, if you could get a buyer deal and make a $10,000 to $15,000 check, would you be pumped on that right now?
Yes.
Would you want to maybe
pumped?
Yeah. Would you want to maybe figure out how to do like 2 of those a month? Even if you never got a listing or never did a flip, and you figured out how to do 2 buyers a month and made 20 to 25,000 or so a month, and you could keep it going, would you be pumped?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. And you might change that. You might be 6 months into it and be like, I don't want to do buyers at all. That sucks, but you got to get started. And so right now you got to go with what pumps you up and try to get motivated and get going. So what I would say is one of the main, this is another thing that Jeff talks about is roads. Jeff will mention, I have roads. Roads are roads that you create that brings business to you. You want to be prospecting and doing the things that you're going to do, whether it's social media or talking to people out in the field and giving them your card or whatever. But you also want to create roads, which are ways that people can come to you. So whether you talk to some, okay, I need to pick 3 roads. I'm going to go talk to 6 divorce attorneys because there's usually a sale of real estate in a divorce situation. So Jeff's got a ton of divorce attorneys that he works with.
What's their incentive to work with you? Do they get what's their incentive, I guess?
It just depends on what you negotiate and what you work out. I mean, ultimately, as an attorney, for an example, your main interest should be making sure that you're taking care of your clients. And if there's real estate to be sold, that you're working with somebody reputable that knows how to get you the best price for the real estate.
Right.
And some situations it could turn into a listing. Some situations the house can be completely trashed and it's a total fixer. If you get a listing and it's a total fixer, you're going to get a ton of offers and they're all going to be from flippers and they're all going to be pretty close. There's going to be some lowballers and stuff, but a fixer might be one that you can buy, and a high-end property in a divorce situation may be one that you list. But my point is you want to figure out a few roads that's going to bring business to you. Doing social media, which is hugely important. You definitely want to do some social media. And I could probably take my own advice on that and do more content on social media. But basically, you want to tell at least your sphere of influence. It depends on, in your local area, it's probably more Facebook at this point. Instagram tends to be kind of more people from everywhere that are interested in a specific subject matter. But regardless, I would have your content cross over to different platforms. And basically, you want to tell people what you're doing. You just want to let at least your people in Las Vegas and your sphere know that you're licensed now. So you want to do some content. Hey, just wanted to let you guys know that I got my real estate license. I'm currently with Blue Diamond Realty and I'm just getting after it. Say whatever you want. But basically what you want is for people in Las Vegas that are looking for Nevada real estate, whenever they have a need arise that they're thinking about you. And they're going to be more likely to think about you if they're seeing your content pop up all the time. They're like, oh, Ryan's a realtor, and if you start posting some content, hey, I just got my real estate license, I'm brand new and I'm getting after it, you'll probably be surprised that you might have some people hit you up and go, that's awesome, dude. We're actually talking about selling our house pretty soon. You're like, right. Whoa, that's awesome. Or if you ever go through, another thing you should definitely do is go through like your contacts, especially your local people and anybody that that might be an investor, and just let them know that you're in the business now and just reach out. You would be shocked how many people in your sphere will tell you, oh, dude, we just sold our house, or, oh, dude, we just bought a house, or we were just talking about like that we might sell within the next little bit of time. Like literally, if you call 300 people in your sphere, like 50 people will tell you that. You're like, oh my gosh, like they didn't know I was getting ready to do this, or they didn't care or whatever. But reaching out to your sphere and letting everybody know, just making a phone call through your address book. And you could probably spend, at least a week. And this is something good to do while you're waiting for your license to come. Right. You have quite a wait still. Go through your address book and make phone calls to people that that are in Vegas. It doesn't matter if they own a house or not. If they own a house, they might want to sell it. If they don't own, they might want to buy one. You're going to get some rental leads here and there. Even if you don't do any rental stuff with any renters, you should affiliate yourself with another new agent in town that you can refer some renters to, somebody that can work with you. But do the social media, let people know what you're doing, and then you can do the smallest little social media posts. You could be in your car, hey, I'm on my way out to show a rental, or I'm on my way out to show a buyer a house, boom, that's an Instagram. or it's a Facebook Reels, and then, hey, I'm in this backyard, check out this view. Is anybody, do you know somebody that's looking to buy? Please send them my way. I'd really appreciate it. I'm brand new.
Right.
And in the beginning, when you're new, don't be afraid to kind of own your newness. Don't try to, people will say fake it till you make it. Don't try to be cocky and arrogant about your abilities as a realtor when you're brand new. You're better off to tell people, hey, I'm brand new. The good news is I don't have 20 buyers that I'm working with right now. So I've got like a lot of time to make sure you get good service, because people will sniff through that and realize if you're BSing them about like how great you are when you're not new. And people could have ways that they can look stuff up.
Right. Authenticity, social media.
Totally.
Come on.
Fake it till you make it. Here's fake it till you make it. Fake it till you make it is when your client, when you actually have somebody you're working with and they're feeling down about something and you pump them up by saying something like, hey, don't worry, we'll figure that out. Or like, hey, I know you're stressed right now about this, but we're going to get through this and we're going to fix it, or we're going to whatever, hey, I know you've looked at 20 like, let's say it's a seller's market, right now it's not. But hey, I know we've looked at a bunch of properties and like 5 of them you liked a lot. And we called the realtor and they told us they already have 20 offers on all of them. And it's feeling really like you're never going to get a house, but I promise you we'll get a house. That's faking it till you make it. Cause you're like, I just promised this guy's going to get a house and I don't know how I'm going to get this guy a house. Fake it till you make it, in my opinion, should be where you're basically, you don't have the confidence to know how you're going to do it, but you're telling them that you're going to perform and do something for them and then actually do it. That's faking it till you make it. But acting like you're something that you're not, that's fluff and that's like unattractive. People won't like that.
Gotcha. So roads, top 3 roads for a new agent, such as myself. Social media.
Absolutely.
Then what are the other 2?
Dude, there's 1,000 roads.
But
you have to figure out what they are. One of your roads is, you're working out at Lifetime Fitness.
Yeah.
I think Jeff works out at Lifetime.
Oh, sick.
I know a handful of agents that work out at Lifetime, and they're all getting deals from Lifetime. And they're getting good deals. And you mentioned that to me too. You should get a membership with Lifetime. It'll probably pay for itself on one deal.
That's a good fucking point.
Yeah. So one of your roads should definitely be, whether that's a road or not, you definitely want to be prospecting a lot. You could get some t-shirts that say I'm a realtor, holla at me or talk to me or whatever, or a hat. I want to sell you a house.
Does your realtor work this hard? Because every time I go to the gym, dude, I am dripping.
Do it. There's so many things you can do. You just have to get, I know we talked a few times and I was able to get you a little bit pumped up. You just have to get pumped up and get after it, and I'll admit, I'm not necessarily the best person that takes my own advice. There's been times where I definitely could have gotten after it more, but I know what it takes and you have to get pumped up and get after it. And, you'll do, I think as a new agent, if you could figure out how to consistently do 2 transactions a month,
right,
dude, you're killing it. And really, if you can figure out how to do 1 transaction a month, I mean, I'm probably not even doing 1 transaction a month right now if you level it out. Granted, I'm comfortable and I'm probably being lazier than I should be. But if you could figure out how to do 1 deal a month and make a $10,000 check every month as a brand new agent, and you can make $120,000 in your first year, you should be pretty pumped by that. Most people would. And the huge vast majority of people are not doing that. So, and I don't like to ever tell people like, hey, if you did rentals, you could probably, if you worked X amount of hours a week, you could probably easily do 2 rentals a week and at least make $600 a week. Like, I don't like to go into what the numbers are because you could put your foot down and go do that and like not get any deals, or you could get 5 deals in a week, and every person's different. You could certainly figure out how to do, a couple, 2, 3 deals a month with your consistency and just be like, dude, I'm doing buyer deals and I'm fine with that. This is cool. I dig it. I like driving around. So as far as, did you want to jump in?
No. I
know I'm long-winded, bro.
I'm identifying with what you said. I dig it. And also I'm just keeping an eye on our time.
Yeah. How long have we been going?
I don't know.
We don't really know what we're doing. We're just winging it.
Yeah. I'm just like looking, it says recording, and when it says not recording anymore, I'll be, oh shit.
So, but I'm actually like, I've thought about doing a podcast so many times for so long, and I'm actually enjoying it.
Yeah.
So
it's pretty cool.
Roads could be anything. Roads and or niches
Yeah.
So one of the things that I had in mind was, as a new agent, why don't you run some ads on properties for rent and get every single person that calls you or messages you and tell them, telephone call only.
Hmm.
Don't text with anybody. Just say, hey, I'm driving and I'm doing this a lot. The best way to really have a conversation with me that would be impactful for you is for you to give me a call.
Hmm.
Here's my number. You can call me anytime. If I'm busy, I'll get back to you. But have a conversation. You could get 100 phone calls a day from renters, and you probably couldn't talk to 100 people in a day. You'd have to keep it short. Talk to people and ask them, hey, can I ask why you're not buying a house?
Right.
And try to convert every single renter you talk to over to a buyer. If they're still a renter after the conversation, just say, hey, my friend David is a new agent that specializes in doing rentals. Why don't you give David a call? And you might work something out with David where he gives you $25 or, takes you to lunch or whatever every time he does a rental.
Hmm.
Because you don't want to just send people away with no help. But you also don't necessarily want to work with renters. Excuse me. In the beginning, you might want to get out there and hustle around with a couple renters. Get out there under pressure and meet people on time, and pop some lock boxes open and be sweating when it's not working, and just get yourself out there on some trial runs on a few rentals. We have a pretty robust rental section in our MLS out here in Las Vegas. So I mean, there are agents that strictly just do rentals. Like I said, I'm not saying that you want to be a rental agent. I'm just saying you're brand new, and you hustled around and did a couple showings for me just for a couple bucks.
Yeah.
You could make, 250, 300, $400, $500 on a rental. And when you're getting started, you might work with a couple renters. Have another agent lined up. So talk to all those people and try to convert some of those people into buyers. Ask them, why aren't you buying? Oh, my credit's not great. It's like, okay, well, if we could get your credit fixed, would you want to buy? And they're like, yeah, I really, really want to buy a house. It's like, well, how long has your credit been bad? It's like, oh, it's been bad for a long time. It's like, okay, well, if you don't figure out some kind of a plan to fix that, you're literally going to be on the phone in 5 years with other agents on rentals because you never tried to fix it. But if you try to start fixing your credit, you'll probably be ready to buy within even as quick as a year or 6 months. It's way faster than you'd think.
Right.
But if you don't take any action, you'll never set yourself up to buy. So if I were able to turn you over to, or if I were able to link you up with a credit counselor that I know, somebody that can help you and tell you which items you need to fix up so that you could buy in the future, would you want to do that? If they say yes, then you need to have somebody that you can send them to. There's lenders that actually do credit repair programs because they want to get that person fixed up. So then that can be their client for a mortgage loan. So get a handful of people into getting their credit fixed, because those are people that are going to call you back in 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years. Get those people in your CRM. You definitely need a CRM. I'm not the greatest at taking my own advice for that. And for years, I didn't even have a CRM. I shudder to think how many people slip through the cracks.
That's true.
But definitely when you're brand new, it's you could argue that it's a little bit disingenuous. You might reach out to like a handful of agents that have listings and just say, hey, I'm brand new. I'm trying to get some people in the door. I want to get some renters in the door. So I can convert them to buyers. If they want to see the property, I can send them back to you so you can double in the transaction. Because if you're a property manager or the listing brokerage on a rental, if you show the property to the renter directly, then you don't have to pay another office a portion of the money that you're taking in, because you're showing it, so you're getting to keep that. So you might find some property managers or some rental listing agents that would be like, okay, yeah, you can advertise my property. Because if you're advertising a real property that they could actually rent, then that's adding value to you to be able to convert some to buyers, and also to the listing office that has a bona fide rental and they're trying to get it rented. So you just tell them, hey, I'll send the renter back to you. And then the agent can talk to the renter and make sure they're real or they're qualified before, but they might want to show the renter the property. Then they get to make that $300 on that end, or whatever it is, 250, 300, 350. I've seen rental fees as high as $1,000. It used to be in the MLS, you could actually sort by co-op price. I don't know if we were supposed to do it or not, but I had a time where I was like $700+ and the properties that came up had 700+, and posted ads on those properties, and people would call me, and I would just go try to show those properties. And I had a few where I rented them and, you know, made those commissions. So that was cool. But convert some of these people to buyers. You can't talk to 100 renters and not convert 1 or 2 to a buyer. So bare minimum, converting a couple renters into buyers, you're going to have some success with that. Another thing is, did you know that you can charge a fee to a renter for even working with you? Because most real estate agents won't even work with renters. I've worked with landlords on courtesy listings to help them with their vacancies. But when a renter says, hey, do you have anything else? I just say no. I'm not trying to work with renters. But I've had a lot of people that ask me, like when I'm working on a courtesy listing, if, you know, I had anything else for them if I worked with renters, and I just tell them I don't have the time, unfortunately, to work with renters. And then usually I try to refer them over to a leasing agent that can help them with that. If you can always help people with that, but you know, you can work with renters if you tell people like, hey, I'm a dad and I have other things going on, and I'm, you know, trying to grow my real estate business, and I don't really work with renters, but I do work with some renters on a case by case, but I have to charge a fee because I might be working on this for a week or two and finally get you a deal closed and, you know, make $250 for, I might have spent $250 in gas driving around. So if I do that, I charge a fee, and you could charge them $300 or $500, and you'd be surprised how many renters that have been having a ton of a problem finding a deal, especially somebody who's not broke, but you know, they're looking for a $2,000 to $3,000 a month, like higher end place, as opposed to a, you know, $1,000 apartment, that they'd be like, yeah, I'd pay you a $500 fee, or I'd pay you a $1,000 fee. And then that has to go through the brokerage. It has to be all legit, but you would get a buyer's brokerage agreement. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm going to make probably $300 when I do the rental, and I got $500 up front from this guy. So now I'm at least like, this guy is not going to go with somebody else. This guy's invested now. So you could do that, and you can make a couple extra bucks. So if you did want to take a couple renters in the beginning to get your feet wet, get some experience showing, talking to people, you could do that. Another thing you can do is you could tell a renter like, hey, I don't really work with renters, but you know, I would be willing to help you out, but normally there's a fee for that. And if they don't want to pay a fee, you could say like, hey, I might normally charge like a $500 fee or $1,000 fee to work with a renter, just because we really don't make hardly any money, maybe a couple $100 for a rental. But I understand that you don't have the funds to do that right now. But, you know, if we could make some kind of other agreement where you could, you know, boost me on social media or something, I could probably work with you. And then they're like, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, you know, you could post on your Facebook that you talked to, you know, you've called on like 5 or 10 properties, and Ryan Paquette was the first agent to offer to help me with the rental, even though hardly anybody does that. And I already met him in person. He's a super cool dude. And like, if you're looking to buy or sell, you should definitely give him a call and let him post that on his Facebook. And maybe you basically agree that they're going to make like 5 posts for you, or 10 posts for you, or they're going to post on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter or whatever, like right now. And then they're going to post on all those whenever you get your application in. And then they're going to post on all those when you get your thing approved. And then they're going to, you know, like, hey, I'm going to waive the $500 fee, and I'm going to get you a place, but you know, can you help me out and try to get me some business with your people? Right. So that's something that you can do. As far as roads, you know, roads are anything you could think of. Divorce attorneys are a big one. Probate attorneys, with what we're doing on the notice of defaults, that's another big one. It's a good idea to have some probate attorneys that you can work with. You know, I would say most of these probate attorneys out there, even if you're getting deals from them, you know, they know a lot of other agents, and you're probably not the only one. You know, but probate attorneys, if they get a client that starts up a probate with them, at some point the property needs to be sold. And so a probate attorney should know some good listing agents that can help them get their property sold.
Right.
You know, and a good probate attorney probably has a handful of agents And a lot of times you have different personality types with these sellers where he might be like, oh, this guy's like perfect for Jason.
Right.
And there could be another guy where he's like, I don't think Jason's going to be the guy for this. I got to go with this guy.
Very people driven business. Cause yeah, I've referred people over to you that haven't gone with you, and
but most probably did.
No, yeah, most definitely. Just
not everybody's personalities will always mesh up,
right?
But definitely figure out some niches. Well, different niches, but also try to figure out some roads.
I want to, just before this kicks us off, I want to kind of, from my point of view, and maybe what I think the audience should take from this, as if they're new agents like myself. The first thing you said was be of service. Being honest and authentic and hardworking, I think, were big ones, because being of service, just trying to do what your client wants you to do, being honest, disclosing your
transparent,
right, and then hardworking, because being busy creates opportunity, especially in the beginning. Like, we don't know what the hell we're doing with this podcast, but we're busy recording it, and we'll figure out the details as they come. So I think those like high level ideas are plenty to start with. Like you said, if you can get 100 buyers calling, or 100 renters calling you in a week or in a day, that's pretty powerful.
Yeah, you might only do that for one day and then be like, oh my gosh, this is inundated. But you got to get started. And that's just one thing that you can do when you're brand new and you have nothing going on to get your feet wet. Definitely get business cards made ASAP. Definitely get your picture on the business card. I fought that for the longest time.
Mm-hmm.
I always, seeing myself in pictures, seeing myself in video, I would say, like most people, that's funny, whatever it is. So
right.
You might resist that. But I'll tell you the reason why, and I've told you this before, but I'm telling the listeners, you definitely want to get your picture on your business card. And the reason being is because people will have your business card, and if there's no picture on it, they're going to be like, who the heck is this? I have no idea who this person is, because people are given business cards all the time. So they're going to be, they met you somewhere, they're looking at your card, I have no idea who this person is. If your picture's on there, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I met that guy at Yard House or whatever. So definitely get your cards, definitely do that. Also, when you're out in the field, running around, you're at a house, you're in a neighborhood, anytime you see somebody, like, okay, we drive around and we go knock doors, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we got to actually drive to the house, get out, go knock the door, and then drive to the next house. When you're out door knocking, or in the course of your duties as a licensee, when you're out working, when you see somebody in their garage or in their driveway or outside, that's like a freebie, dude. Just roll down your window and just say, hey, I have buyers looking in this area. Is this by chance available, or will it be anytime soon? That's easy. They're like, nope. You're like, all right, thanks. Or maybe, hey, let me give you my card in case anything changes. That's like, you just stop, roll your window down, say something. If they say no, you're like, see ya. So I actually sold a house that way. The first deal that I did with Ryan when I switched brokerages, we'll wrap this up pretty soon. But the first deal that I did, that was from when I started actually door knocking, I believe, was I was driving through a neighborhood and I saw a dude outside, and I said, hey, is the house for sale? And he's like, what? I'm like, is the house for sale? And he goes, it's going to be pretty soon. And I got out, gave him my card, talked to him for a few minutes. That guy ended up calling me back. That was a deal that we didn't partner on that one. That was like, I pretty much double-ended it, and he let me list it on the sale. So, I mean, I made some pretty good money on it, but I didn't partner on it. But if I hadn't just asked the guy if the house was for sale, I wouldn't have got that deal.
Crazy.
Anytime you're out and about, if you see a neighbor outside and you're on foot, just at least wave to them, or, hey, can I give you my card? Don't be afraid to go over and just say, hey, I have a tenant interested in this house over here. Is this a cool neighborhood? Or
right.
Now you're trying to get information for your client. You're giving them your name, shake their hand, give them your card. But those are just little small things. And most of that's not going to yield any fruit. But if you think about it, you're kind of being almost like standoffish as a real estate professional if you're like not being neighborly to people.
Right.
So just do it, because you never know what could come from it.
I can dig that.
You know, you're going to be out there anyway. So I don't know if you want to wrap this up, but you know, for new agents, you got to get started and figure out some things to do. These are just a handful of ideas that I would tell a new agent of things that are easy to do that you can do.
Mhm.
There's so many other things you could do, and maybe we'll do another video where we talk about different things.
Right.
But you got to get started. I'm hoping that I'm going to do more content. I'm actually a person who's very interested and concerned with personal liberty as an American, and with our way of life changing and our outlook. I'm being very candid with how I say it, but with the outlook of things being questionable. So if you're into those topics, you know, or either way, please like, share, and subscribe. Thanks again, Ryan, for handling everything with all the electronics or equipment. You did a great job. Hopefully this thing recorded.
If it didn't, route.
Yeah, this could be a one-off where we never do another podcast, or we may never stop. I kind of wanted us to just get our feet wet, and just, there's so many questions that we have about the direction we want to take this. You know, whether we're going to do a podcast together and you're going to be a co-host, or you're going to go do your own thing, or whatever, but we wanted to get started. We hope that you found some value in it. I don't know if you had anything else.
No, you did great.
Thanks, man.
First time out.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate
it. Happy to have been a part of it.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Please comment. If you guys have any questions about anything, feel free to reach out. If you come across any deals in Vegas or even out of state that you need help closing, or a possible flip, or anything where you need a partner or anything like that, just feel free to reach out anytime and in the comments, and give me a way to get back in touch with you, and we'll go from there and see if we can make it happen. Thanks, guys.
Awesome. See ya.